All right, Jake's got his fog machine all situated. Apparently, that's how games against the worst baseball team in arguably in baseball history are supposed to go. The Yankees win 13-1. We got a Ben Rice sighting behind the dish, which was pretty cool. And Jake, I think you talked about it yesterday. Aaron Judge was going to hit a home run in this game. It was his 18th homer, probably the most predictable home run of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we also have an injury update. This was at the end of the broadcast, so I was pretty excited to see this. Fernando Cruz, Yankees say he will play catch tomorrow, could be back on the mound as soon as next week. And Jake, you brought up that this is retroactive to a few days ago. So this stay on the IL is not going to be long. So obviously good news. And obviously the man of the hour today, like it's hard to get overly hyped up about a 13-1 win against a team like this. But Max Fried again, 7 1/3, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 Ks. His ERA, according to Sarah Langs, that ERA is 1.29. That's the lowest ERA by a Yankee through 11 starts since they started counting that stat in 1913. That's pretty impressive. And considering all the guys who have thrown for this team. So now that leads us to the prompt, Jake. And I'm interested to see what you have to say. I know you have a ton of data on this. But the question is, do you trust this team more than you trusted that 2024 unit that, just to refresh your guys' memory, they beat Kansas City, they beat Cleveland in the championship series, they win the pennant, and they go lose in a relatively short series to the Dodgers that they pretty much handed some games away in that series, whether they put Cortez on the mound or they just couldn't master the fundamentals. I feel like this is an obvious answer for me, but I'll take a step back. Jake, what do you think?
Well, I trust this team more than last year, Gary. To this point, I did, some number crunching and, through the first 50 games, we don't have today's sample size, right? That's not part of it. But first 50 games, according to Baseball Reference, that's the name, the batting clearly leans towards 2025. Like, we're talking 29 ground into double plays. Guess how many, Gary, 2024 was grounding into?
So we had 29 this year's team up until this point.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say, I feel like I saw a lot. I'm going to say 40.
Nope. They averaged a double play a game, grounding in 50.
Are you joking?
Well, the real question is how many of those were Alex Verdugo? All right. Never mind.
21 more. Is that the math of it?
Yeah. So, but Gary, this goes back to what you were saying in the offseason, how we went away from, remember last year, I think we're adjusting as creators, we're adjusting as analysts, we're adjusting as fans, right? Because the more knowledge that we learn, we try to adjust to it. And I think the big thing here that I learned is, Gary, you and I were actually pro contact last year. We were pro bringing in Alex Verdugo, who swings more of like a flat swing, pro contact, flattening out Volpe's swing. Right? Those are good things. However, what did that do? It took away from the slugging. They had no slug. 427 slugging percentage for the team through 50 games last year. They have a 470 slugging percentage this year. That's a huge difference when you think about averaged into 50 games. Their OPS this year is 812, and last year was 764. So just talking about the hitting, which they have 8 more hits than last year, and they have 15 more doubles, and they have 5 more triples, and they also have 16 more home runs, and they also have 37 more RBIs. This year's team is doing more of the explosive stuff, whereas last year's team was, for lack of a better term, I guess, a bunch of, not as good average-wise, but a bunch of
worms.
Yeah, I mean, they were just squashing worms, and they were like, it was a bunch of Arias and like Judge and Soto. And it's like if Arias didn't hit for average.
That's not a very good player.
No. So they also, by the way, I thought this was interesting, had 9 more stolen bases. So they're actually stealing more. They're walking more. Remember how many times we kept saying, Juan Soto being here, they just have like a more patient approach at the plate, at least to the start of the season. Then it went into that hellscape that we called the second half. This year, they actually have more in the first 50 games. They have 203 walks to 194 last year. Now, again, for those of you who are wondering, no, this has nothing to do with today. Today does not count towards this. So this will go up for the 2025 team.
That's right.
And I don't know what it'll do for 2024 if we went into 51 games. But the point being is, Gary, they've scored 38 more runs this year than last year. Okay. And it's the same number of games. Here's the big kicker, though. Last year, they won 3 more games than they had through 50 this year. So I think that's something that people will look at and be like, okay, you know, that's a big deal. But if you look, there's a reason for it. Last year's pitching was better than this year's pitching through that 50-game sample size. Now, we're going to dive into that, Gary, because I don't necessarily think that tells the full story. I don't. But just full disclosure, runs scored in 2025 through 50 games, 278. Last year, 240. Runs allowed this year, 184 through 50 games. Last year, 165. The Yankees were not allowing runs. I mean, they were one of the best teams in the league at run prevention, despite a horrific defense, right?
Yeah, I think up until this point, by the way, Clay Holmes had been fine. Like Clay Holmes' ERA,
he'd been insane. Actually, I don't think
his
he had
ERA
even
was
given
0.
up a run. Yeah.
Right, his ERA was 0 through like 6 weeks. So I guess the question is, when you say trust, I think most people are talking about like just regular season ball, but doesn't it more have to do with the personnel and trying to accomplish what we're all trying? Because you see it in the chat. People are saying, well, I don't think they can win a World Series, or some people think, yeah, I do trust this unit. It's more about what they do in close games. Let me just read off the lineup, okay? And for those of you who are wondering where this lineup's coming from, it is on Google that is now depicting for me a Game 5 of the World Series. Gleyber Torres led off for this team at second base. And I think everyone would look at that, at the 1-2 in Gleyber Torres and Juan Soto. Those two players are basically bats and nothing else. The defense is going to be bad. The range is going to be bad. The glove work is going to be poor. And fundamentals are going to go to die with the top two guys in our lineup. Now, obviously, Juan Soto does something else great. But having said all this, you continue to go down the lineup. Jazz Chisholm was hitting fourth for that team. He was playing third base, technically out of position. Giancarlo Stanton, just a DH. He's in net positive. Anthony Rizzo was our first baseman. Jake, we were talking the whole year. Matter of fact, Anthony Rizzo executed something that he was a part of, one of the biggest mishaps that we had the whole year in the World Series. And obviously, Gerrit Cole, same deal. But Gerrit Cole's not on the team right now. Anthony Volpe at shortstop, Austin Wells catching, Alex Verdugo in left field. So it seems like if you just look at that lineup, the actual style that they were trying to build was more contact. But contact's only a good thing if the ball reaches the grass. And you just mentioned total hits. That last year's team didn't have a whole lot more of hits than this year's team. And yet, the reason we score so many more runs this year is because of the slugging.
Eight fewer, by the way.
Yeah, and you know the best part about this? Here's the best part. We're scoring more runs now. And when I list you the lineup that we have today, when you're talking Cody Bellinger, right? You're talking now DJ LeMahieu at second base. And DJ LeMahieu's not some crazy upgrade, but defensively over Gleyber Torres, massive upgrade. It just is. Trent Grisham in center field rather than Aaron Judge, the center fielder. Now Judge is in right field. We read off the analytics yesterday. Massive improvement. So my thing is this. This team, this year's team, you may think they're not going to win a World Series, but this group has the fundamentals. It's just much easier. You can just take a breath and expect, are they going to fail if you watch every day? Yeah, there's going to be some mishaps fundamentally. So is every other team in baseball. But in comparison to that 2024 team, that 2024 team was a walking mishap waiting to happen. So, yeah, I'm more comfortable personally with where I care about in the season, which is October. It's just how we get there. That two-headed monster of Soto and Judge just sort of slugging up top, it felt like a more sustainable way to win. But I guess when you look up at the deeper numbers, perhaps not. They're scoring.
Yeah, and then you mentioned fielding, which I love that you brought that up because that is also a piece of the pie. I know a lot of people tend to ignore it, right? It's interesting because I noticed something here. So last year, The Yankees had a 31 DRS. So that's defensive runs saved. For the entire season, they have 19 right now.
So it's not even comparable. It's actually not even, it's not marginal. It's just massive. The difference between ridiculous. Last year's team, and mind you, you just read off those numbers, and there was a player, and you brought this up yesterday, and not obviously to this context, but Alex Verdugo literally played the entire year last season because of the glove. That's the only reason he was playing.
This is the real stat. You ready for this?
I'm ready for it.
Total fielding runs above average. The Yankees in 2025 have 15 runs, total fielding runs above average, which is really good. Last year, 4.
Yeah, so we were essentially built like a 12-year-old's MLB The Show team. You sign a bunch of bats.
Yeah.
The guys aren't making the plays in the field. You pray it doesn't matter when it matters most.
You go into the World Series, player,
and it did.
You change their
sliders.
We all know people did this. They changed their position.
That too, and then all of a sudden they're not making the plays that you need to. And Wildman, I want to get to this super chat. Wildman Samurai, what a name!
Yes, thank you, Wildman.
Thank you for the 10. Says, let's go Yankees. Keep up the great content. Wildman, we really appreciate the support. Thank you. And by the way, guys, if you're new here, please make sure you subscribe and you hit that like button. It does us a ton. So please make sure you do that. But I think the answer is that when people say this team can't win the World Series, I would assume they're projecting what this team looks like compared to the best team from the National League. And that's understandable given what the actual series, how it ended. Because when you look at it, you sort of forget how it was played, right? You lose on the final pitch of a game to Freddie Freeman. You bring in a starter, of all people. You blow game 1. We should have won game 1. And I'm not trying to rewrite history. We lost the game. And then all of a sudden you're up 5 runs and you've got Gerrit Cole on the mound. You'd like to believe you're in a quality position and you don't cover first base on a ground ball for Mookie Betts. So you sort of look up and say, well, the Yankees lost in 5 games. That series must not have even been competitive. It was very competitive. So my feeling is that you look at this roster, we don't have the star power that people are used to when they talk about the Yankees. When you're used to talking about the Yankees, last year was sort of more towards that direction. Now you've got Judge. Now you've got Soto. Now, could there have been more behind it? Absolutely, and the numbers tend to agree with that. But having said this, Jake, this team seems to be a better unit with less star power. So I don't know. It's hard to buy into it because you like to look up and look in the batter's box and see a star player playing for the Yankees. But to some degree, you do have to compare, okay, this guy's catching and batting 8th, or this guy's playing left field and batting 6th. What does he look like compared to last year's left fielder? Well, Jason Dominguez is a massive upgrade over 150 games of Alex Verdugo. So yeah, if you really peel back the details, it makes a lot of sense why this year's team is having success.
Yeah, and it's funny, I did mention how the pitching in 2024 was better than 2025. I do think that doesn't tell the full scope, and the reason why I was saying that is because, first off, you had just mentioned, I love that you brought it up, Clay Holmes was unhittable at one point earlier in the year. It's easy to forget that, but
very easy.
Devin Williams was not. He was the opposite. So they lost games because of Devin Williams. It's one of the only Yankee teams. I've always looked at expected wins because I've always been interested by that. And I think people they always look at that as like, is the manager as good as the analytics would say? I don't necessarily look at it like that. There are some circumstances that happen. You're not going to take out your star closer after 4 blown saves, essentially, right? So He lost those 4 games. It happens. He's completely, improved. One thing that I do have an interest with here is fielding independent pitching. It's called FIP. I don't always use all these analytics, but I think this actually tells the full scope here. Because in 2025, the Yankees' FIP is 3.49. Their ERA is 3.42, right? Well, if you look at 2024, their ERA is 2.92, Gary. But the fielding independent pitching is 3.86. And it actually kind of goes along with what I was thinking, in that, wow, the Yankees allowed more earned runs in 2025 than they did in 2024 through the first 50 games. Why is that? They have more strikeouts, all of that. Well, it's because of the defense. That's why. The defense. When you think about it, earned runs, okay? I mean, the Yankees allowed, so think about this, Gary. The Yankees allowed 168 earned runs in 2025.
Okay.
Through the first 150 games. Okay. The 2024 Yankees allowed 165 runs. Only 145 of those were earned. So there was a lot of, there were a lot of errors last year, which we just talked about. So,
yeah, but there are also so many balls put in play. Our literal closer, and mind you, Luke Weaver was given the ball late in the season, right? Everyone was saying, and your dad was saying, well, why can't Weaver get an opportunity? Like, we had no idea who our closer was going to be. Not halfway through the season. Not at the All-Star break, we didn't. We were all talking about Mason Miller. We were talking about teams that were losing games. And, okay, go get this guy from St. Louis. We were talking that. So if you really peel back what last year's defense was being asked to do, they were asked to do a lot. Your closer, the closer for your team, he's the ideal pick to finish off a game. And his a pitch, the best pitch he could make is attempting to induce a ground ball so that Volpe or Gleyber Torres, and Gleyber Torres was a horrible defensive second baseman, half of your middle infield we can define as bad, right? Jazz Chisholm was out of position and struggling there for like a month and a half, and your literal job is to get outs and you're trying to induce ground balls. I think to some degree it's like earn run or not, you need to miss bats. Like, there's a reason that all these staffs, Matt Blake wants a splitter, right? When you ask, and you look in our bullpen, what are our guys in our bullpen throwing? Like, predominantly, they're throwing splitters. They're throwing two seams or sinkers, right? And these are backdoor two seams. These are not two seams to induce ground balls. They're trying to miss bats. Cruz was brought onto this team. We make this trade, and what did they tell us? That splitter that you've seen, the analytics just pop off the page, we're going to tell him to throw it more times than not. Why? We don't want contact. That's what Jack Curry told us. Jack Curry was saying this Yankees team needs more bullpen arms that don't pitch to contact. That's what the Yankees team needs to trade for. Then you hop into 2025, the defense is massively better on the infield, and then now guys are attempting. The best pitch that they can make is with the attempt to miss a bat. Yeah, I think it makes sense that this year's defense, not only personnel-wise is better, but the staff is actually pitching where it makes sense. I do. I just think that you shouldn't be trying to induce contact unless obviously you're a starter. I think that makes sense as a starter. Max Fried, more of a contact pitcher, throws a sinker. But for your closer to come into a game and be trying to induce ground balls, and half those ground balls are going to Gleyber Torres, how can you look up and say, oh, our defense is bad? Well, it's like, of course, you're asking for a ground ball to go to this guy. So I'm more confident in this unit because I think our staff is doing a better job of putting the right players out there that are trying to do the right thing.
No, I would agree with that too. I think that's another thing that we learned, as well as, contact is nice, but, if you're not slugging, like we were just talking about earlier, that's a problem. Well, another problem is, soft contact is nice, but any contact really, especially late in the game when you're talking about ghost runners on second or just runners in scoring position, isn't always efficient. And just because you have, and this is a good thing to remember, just because you have a good defense doesn't mean you need to test how good your defense is. And I think that's
true. It's like having good safeties in the NFL, right? It's
my God, I know.
If they've got to go over the top and defend because your corner got blown by, it's like, it's nice to have it, but should you use it all the time? Probably not.
You mean you're hating on single high safeties that can cover the entire field like a center fielder?
It's nice when you see them once a game, but when you see them 2 or 3 times and one time they get burnt, it's not any fun.
That's the margin for error.
Exactly. But isn't that, if you actually think about what Brian Cashman said throughout the years, how do they describe the postseason? They describe it like a crapshoot, right? Mm-hmm. They say, well, we're going to go give it our shot. We're going to give it our shot.
Rather than having you want the margins to be a little bit bigger than this.
The margins, I want those margins to be bigger than this. And when the margins are this, and the roster is what I read you, it's Verdugo, it's Rizzo, right? It's Chisholm out of position. It's Juan Soto patrolling right field. It's Gleyber Torres patrolling defensively at second base, who won't move from a position he's already bad at over to third. Yeah, if the margins are this, that's what creates the mistakes that you see. It's just a culmination of how you're going about your business, and it just didn't catch up to us against Kansas City. It didn't catch up to us against Cleveland. But when you play the Dodgers, when you play, even if San Diego had won that series, it was always going to catch up to us one way or the other, and unfortunately, it caught up to us on the biggest stage.
Yeah, and shout out to DG. Fried on pace for Cy Young.
Do you want to talk about this pursuit about Cy Young? Because when we started this conversation about Fried, and people asked us whether or not we thought he had a chance to win Cy Young, we steered away from it. Didn't say it wouldn't happen, but it was more because he pitches to contact. He's not going to pile up 230 Ks. He's not a Tarek Skubal. He's not attempting to pitch that way. And yet, if you look up, I mean, he's well on pace now, if he stays healthy, to go get 20 wins for this team.
And have over 200 strikeouts, which is not even something he needs to do to win.
Yeah, probably not. You go win 22, 23 games, and you're playing for a team who loses Soto. Everyone says, how are they going to rebound? You lose Gerrit Cole. Everyone sort of agrees you're the ace of this team. Rodon's behind you. And you show up, pitch to a 2 ERA, win 20-plus games, you're probably going to win Cy Young.
Yeah, and did you see they took him out of this game simply because it was already over, and he only had 81 pitches in the eighth inning. I
actually love that decision, by the way.
I do too. Why risk it? You're watching these pitchers get injured like crazy throughout baseball for stupid shit, right? Why risk that in a game that you have? I was talking to Gary, no joke. It's funny that we were late because of the whole camera thing. But I was talking to Gary, no joke, about starting the show early. I actually would love to get a show of hands if in a blowout, when it's clear that the Yankees are going to win, if you guys would rather us start the live stream in like the eighth inning or something of like a 10-run game. I would be curious to see who would actually rather tune in than watch the rest of the game that is already not in doubt. Like I'm curious. I don't know, but as far
I bet they wouldn't mind, given how expensive it is. You just leave the house; it costs you $100 these days. So
that's true.
I bet they'd be fine with
it. Dave's like,
William, no. Mom's working. I think mom's working today. So yeah, no mom today. She'll watch it.
Yeah,
it's not right now.
So yeah, Fried is definitely in the situation. I think he has a shot to win Cy Young. Now, the big thing with Fried has been staying healthy. So if he can stay healthy for the Yankees, I think he wins it by default. Because I'll tell you right now, today was expected. I joked about this off air with you, Gary. Today was like, oh yeah, there's breaking pitches don't break here. Clearly. Maybe your breaking pitches don't break here. But
did you see that story, by the way?
Breaking pitches break here.
They sure did. Did you see the story today on the broadcast? I thought it was brilliant. They were talking about the Moose, Mike Mussina.
Yeah.
And it really was reminiscent of exactly what Max Fried is. Max Fried is an artist of adjustment. That's all he is. He obviously has the stuff. He's got the 12-6 curveball. He's got the changeup, sinker, four-seam, right? His four-seam is cutting. They talk about that on the broadcast all the time. It is. He's got 98, 99 in the tank, and he's a left-hander who keeps the ball on the ground. So what's not to love? But the best part about him is none of us know what his attack is day to day. We have no idea. And the best part about it, when they were talking about Mike Mussina, they're like, how are you going to go about getting this lineup out? And he goes, yeah, I'm not talking to you right now about it. He's like, oh, why not? Well, because I want to see what it looks like when I warm up, because I want to know what pitches I have and what pitches aren't there. And the mound, the actual mound on the field versus the mound in the bullpen is going to be different. So what am I expecting? What's my anticipation? I assume whatever it is I think is going to be the way to go about it, I'm going to get some type of wrinkle out there when it's all said and done. When I get out there and it's the second inning, I'm not going to have the slider that I thought I was going to have. It's going to be a little different. And so Max Fried, it seems like something is off or something is better than usual. And then he sort of goes to the well. Okay, you clearly see I've got that 12-6 curveball today. What do we see the next 2-3 innings?
He's a genius, by the way.
He's just a master.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who does he remind you of?
He reminds me of Bryson DeChambeau. Everything is
what? I was not expecting you to go golf.
Yes. So Bryson, literally everything meticulously has to be like perfect. Like he is trying to measure every angle. He's the mad scientist. I get that kind of vibe from Max Fried. I mean, his approach for a pitcher is so different than most pitchers. Like most pitchers would have answered that question easily. And you see him and he's always kind of lost in his own thoughts. Like they show, he's still thinking about his start while they're showing him in the clubhouse, right? In the dugout. It's so funny to me because that's really, I was thinking about it for a while. I was like, who does he remind me of? And I've brought up like pitchers. Yeah, he has some like Chris Sale to his game, I guess. But no, what he actually reminds me of is Bryson DeChambeau, how every little minute detail is measured for more often than not, it is going to have the most ideal performance. And
so
I
he's
feel
a nerd
like
in a good way.
Yes. And I mean, maybe I could be wrong, but based on what I get to see, I've never talked to him. I don't know his process, but what I've seen, what I've heard from like the different interviews is, yeah, he's like Bryson, where every single thing is measured. And it's like the whole, you know, the Doctor Strange, the one thing, like all those different scenarios. And I came to one conclusion. Yeah, that's Max Fried. He's literally just trying to find the best, you know, scenario possible, and he's going to go about it. But I like that because I think, you know, we focus so much on guys like, oh yeah, this sports, you can't think in sports. Well, that's not really true when you're a pitcher. You can absolutely think on the mound. You do get that opportunity. And I think Max Fried makes the most of it.
Yeah. And I want to get to a super chat actually that comes from Jeff J before I get to this one, because I love this prediction of the World Series because it is fun to talk about who we might run into. And Jeff J, thank you, Jeff, for the 5, says, my son and I were talking about recovery from second TJs, obviously Tommy John, and the data is only 65% to recover and pitch prior to the surgery. Will Cole come back the same? So did Gerrit Cole have his second Tommy John? Because I thought he had one. I'm not.
I thought this was his first.
I was under the impression it was his first as well. Chad, if you could help us out there. Obviously, he may have. I know he hasn't had one for the Yankees, but this is now his first with the pinstripe. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm seeing no.
Yeah, so I would assume this is his first until we find out, you know, in some other way. But so Jeff J says he had one as a Pirate. So, you know, I believe that information. And let's just assume that's correct. Well, yeah, it's not ideal to see a player go through Tommy John. But I guess you can look at this as a situation of like glass half full or half empty. You can choose to look at it however you want. Some people, right, you look at Walker Buehler, he was off Tommy John as well. And the Dodgers were looking at a player who was giving them nothing. And for those of you who remember or watch other teams play, and I don't blame you if you don't, you just watch the Yankees, but Walker Buehler was not good in the regular season of last year. He just wasn't. But what ended up happening is Walker Buehler started to kick it into gear around late September. They said, hold on a second. We trade for Jack Flaherty. I think we might have something here, a little 1-2 punch. Maybe you can throw him in the bullpen. Yamamoto can start game 1. And next thing you know, he's closing us out in the World Series. So am I worried about it? Not necessarily. I think the Yankees can spend enough money where we can sort of pick and choose when to use Gerrit Cole, how to use him, and where I would worry. And this is genuine, Jeff. I really want you to understand what I'm trying to get at here. If the Yankees were a bad team or just a mediocre team, I would never trust a player off Tommy John because you can't trust the process. I'd feel like they try to rush him. And given our situation and how we're pitching, especially with what Matt Blake's doing, I'm not worried about Gerrit Cole.
I'm not at all worried about Gerrit Cole because it's weird to say this, but you have to understand when you have a Max Fried, you have a Rodon pitching the way he is, he could turn into a guy that is like an addition. Like he's not even like that's how I'm looking at Gerrit Cole, Gary. I'm going to get so used to Gerrit Cole not pitching for the Yankees after I thought it'd be weird. I'm already like I've gotten used to it. Like life without Gerrit Cole, we're about to see 162 games in the postseason without Gerrit Cole. So when he comes back, it's going to be an addition. And if he struggles, he struggles. But That's how I'm looking at it, and that is no disrespect to him, but it is a reminder, like, this is professional sports in a nutshell. You do have to adapt to your injuries, to losing a guy for the year, but sometimes you adapt well enough where when that guy does come back, you almost don't even need him in that sense, and he becomes a luxury.
Yeah, you do end up finding out what your team's like. You lose your ace, and I mean, you saw it with the Atlanta Braves, and I believe it was 2021. They lose Ronald Acuna Jr. What did everybody do? Well, that team's chalked, as the kids like to call it. This team's chalked. They're done. There's nowhere to go. You lose essentially the MVP.
Glad he's back.
What's up?
Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yeah, but in 2021, he was out for the season with a torn ACL.
Oh, exactly.
So it's like at that point, you're thinking, well, how are the Braves going to go about, how are they going to score runs? How are they going to win important games? You lose one of the best bats in the game, one of the best athletes to lead off. I mean, it's insane. And then all of a sudden, you see them trade for Soler, right? They make some moves. They're obviously getting outs in October. They weren't struggling to do that. Long and behold, they win the World Series. And then he shows up the next year, and it's like, well, I still have something to prove. So the point here, the Yankees can still do something regardless of who you lose outside of Aaron Judge. That is the one player, obviously, the Yankees can't lose. You saw what it looked like in 2023. We looked like the Bad News Bears without him. And it didn't help having
it's just not
Donaldson.
Fun.
It was the most unfun thing. Could you imagine if we started this podcast in 2023? I probably would have quit.
Yeah, I hate to be that guy. And honestly, I mean, I've covered 2 seasons of Rams football where they won 4 games. But understandable, you're only covering 16, 17 games.
Yeah, and at least you get to talk about a draft pick or something, like some type of turnaround.
No, you didn't. No, because that draft pick went right to the Detroit Lions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then the draft pick before that... that went to the Titans. So yeah, no.
So never mind, just a total waste of your time.
Yeah.
J Station, another great YouTube name, by the way.
Yeah, I like that.
J Station, thank you for the 2.
Says, I love
if
this.
you guys, if you had to predict the World Series, who's playing, believe it or not. So I pay close attention. Obviously, I play very close attention to the Padres. Being that my family's out there, they're Padres fans. The Padres are playing some of the worst baseball you've ever seen. Manny Machado has just fallen off a cliff. Hit a game-winning home run yesterday, but as a team, they're not scoring. They're just not scoring, and they're back into their bullpen, still very good. The Dodgers are beat up. Remember all of the details of what people said of the reasons why the Yankees can't win the World Series or a reason they probably wouldn't. They'd say, well, they've got to stay healthy, right? All of this stuff, all this hoopla. Well, all the stuff that we've projected onto this Yankees team, the Dodgers can't stay healthy. There's a ton of dudes off the field. The Padres can't score. So now you look around, I'm looking at Philadelphia as a team to pencil in. I'm assuming they're going to make a deal for a closer. Obviously, Alvarado just got suspended for, I believe it was 82 games or 81 games, half the season, for putting a needle in his butt, essentially. And, he's on steroids. So they're probably, just like the Diamondbacks were when they won the pennant, they're going to trade for a closer, and just don't know who that guy's going to be. Certainly he'll be available at some point, but I have no idea who's winning the AL. I hope it's us. I hate to just come out here and say we're doing it, but if I had to make a prediction of who I think is going to win the NL, I'm going to say the Phillies right now. I love the way they're playing.
Yeah, it's funny because we got so caught up in, the Dodgers this, Dodgers that, and they could, without a doubt, they could turn things around.
Oh, 100%.
But do the numbers suggest that's actually going to happen? They don't. Do you know why? You know who the last repeat World Series team was, right?
It's been a while.
The Yankees.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
they won 3 straight. That's it. That was the last time.
Almost 25 years ago.
Yeah. So some people could look at that and say, oh, well, the Dodgers are due. But also some people could look at that and say, yeah, the numbers don't look great. So the reason why it's so hard to repeat, you play 162 games, then you play, say, 20, 30, 40 games, whatever, depending on whatever it ends up being in the, the playoffs. And it's like, that's not easy to predict. So, yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I like what the Phillies have done, and I still don't feel like the Phillies are as good as they're going to be. And they already have 33 wins. But I honestly see the Yankees repeating and going back to the World Series. I don't know if they win. I'm not going to, predict that because I think that's just really ridiculous. Honestly, that would be just bias. But I look at the way Trey Turner's hitting. You have Bryce Harper, Castellanos, Bohm, Schwarber. I mean, the usual guys, right? I think they've done a really nice job of kind of keeping the band together. But then, they also went out and they made that pitching move to go out and get Luzardo. And I think that's one of the underrated things that this team did. Luzardo was the big fish. I know they're trying to sell the Sandy Alcantara dream on everybody, but really that guy
dream seems like a nightmare.
Yeah, that guy left a while ago, and his name is Jesus Luzardo. And he might not have the crazy knockdown, drag out, strikeout numbers, but he's got a 1.95 ERA. So you have him. You got Wheeler. Nola's pitching like crap, and they're still winning games. So eventually,
Wheeler's my favorite arm in the sport.
That doesn't surprise me.
In the big game, someone asked me this at the beginning of this year. They're like, "Who's the best pitcher in the sport?" And I actually said that Zach Wheeler was the best arm in the game. And obviously, there's going to be a ton of opinions. You're going to get Skeens. You're going to get all these guys. But when you get to the big game, there's nobody I'd rather toss a ball to. Never. He'll go big inning. He'll go past 100 pitches. He'll pitch on short rest. And he locates regardless. He's got the stuff. There's nothing anybody else has that he doesn't have. And we have a super chat here with the 20. We got someone from Brazil. So Brazilian here in Berlin. My Boston relative.
Appreciate you.
Who's a Red Sox fan, took him to a Yankees-Red Sox game that concluded with a Yankees 4-3 win over the Red Sox in 15 innings back in 93, September 18th at Fenway. That game made me a Yankees fan, to his disgust. Well done there. What a classy channel you guys have. Again, thank you so much for the super.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Glad you could join us as Yankees fans. I did not become a Yankees fan. I actually was born 2 months after that. I mean, I was literally born in November of 93. So, but yeah, welcome aboard. I didn't become a Yankees fan until like 04. So, yeah,
that's
it took
okay.
me a bit.
That's okay. But that's
right.
Yeah.
You can't call me a bandwagon. You just can't do it.
Well, all right, here's the rule. If your dad played for a team and you like that team, everyone can shut the hell up. You are not a bandwagon. Like, that's just the way it is. Chris Sims roots for the Giants because Phil Simms played for the Giants. There are people that are upset at him because he was like some backup quarterback for Tampa. And they're like, why don't you root for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Like, I did nothing for them. My dad has a legacy with the Giants. I like the Giants.
I'm like, you realize at some point or another, regardless of your age, you do have to just choose what team you want to root for. That could be a hometown team. It could be a team your dad or your mom liked. It could be a team your whole family supports. Or you could just on a whim in 2007 be like, you know what team I really like to watch? This 17-0 or 16-0 New England Patriots team. I love watching this guy, Tom Brady, and just become a Patriots fan. So yeah, welcome aboard the Yankees train. I sure hope here soon. I mean, we're now going on 16 years actually of being not pennantless, but World Series-less. We've got to win. I know we're the Yankees and all that still matters and our history matters, but at some point or another, the Yankees do have to get over the hump. Like, you don't want this to drag on to, you're now talking 30, 35 years. Our kids are going to turn around and be like, wait, hold on. You guys are talking. You guys sound like Cowboys fans. Like, you know how Cowboys fans get made fun of today because they haven't won anything since the 90s? Well, that's who we could look like 12 years from now. So I want people to understand the rubber's going to meet the road at some point here. We have to win. And that's why I put such an emphasis on not just this team being better, and I'm happy that they are, but also improving at the deadline, which is why we're so excited. Jake and I are going to do a ton of content on players this team could add, potential trades, other organizations that maybe aren't playing good baseball, who may be selling, and we could take advantage of that. This year's team has to go out and win. And that's our goal here as podcasters. Obviously, Jake and I won't be catching fly balls anytime soon, but we sure can talk about it.
No, it's true. And I will say, as far as the Cowboys thing, because I always have to stop myself, this is why the Cowboys were so pathetic. Okay? And I feel bad for Cowboys fans that are normal and don't constantly say, America's team. No, you're not America's team. The prerequisite for being America's team is, as long as I've been alive, and I'm almost 30 in October. If you haven't gotten to the championship game in your conference, you're not America's team. You don't represent us. Well, maybe you do. Maybe what you're saying is America is like not even second place in the world. If that's how you feel, then yes, the Cowboys not even being second place are America's team. But the reality
they
is
call it America's team because of the sheer number of fans they have. Because it is
ridiculous
how many fans they have.
At the same time, do you know what the most boring primetime games are? The ones where the Dallas Cowboys are playing. I have no
easily. I
interest
completely agree. I think they're a horrible organization to watch, and obviously top to bottom, they're just run. It's treacherous to watch, and Jeremy, I completely understand.
That's my thought process.
It's not going to be apples to apples where one team goes to the pennant, one team can't win their conference. We get this, but the point is, in order to be this brand where we say, do you want to be a Yankee? Does this player, why wouldn't he want to play for the Yankees? Well, the Yankees have to win the World Series so we can show other people what they have to gain by playing here. That's what it is. If you win a World Series as a Yankee, there's nothing else you can do in baseball. Shohei Ohtani just won a World Series with the Dodgers. You think that would have been as rewarding as if he won it with the Pinstripes? Of course not. But he would prefer to play in LA, and that's perfectly fine. It's his choice. But the point is, when the Yankees win a World Series, if you go back, just go on YouTube and look at what it looked like in 2009, there's never been a show like that. Never. And those guys are just etched in history as legends. And you look at World Series teams for a lot of these other teams from 3 years ago, people aren't legends on the Rangers for having beat the D-backs in the World Series. People hardly remember the players on the team.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing here is that, it's funny because you could almost like compare them, I guess, to like the Bills because they were getting so close and yet so far. But the Yankees did make the World Series last year. And I feel like this team is better. And honestly, this is the time. And when you go back and you look at like what started a dynasty, and I'm not saying the Yankees are about to be a dynasty, but when you look at what started a dynasty in the NFL, you have to have an ingredient. It's not just, hey, we're great at what we do. See, with the Patriots, a lot of things, like not taking anything away, Tom Brady won a lot of Super Bowls. I get that, 6. But what I always say is that never could have happened if he was in like the AFC North or the AFC West, or the NFC West, excuse me. It happened because he was in the AFC East. Because essentially you're playing the Jets, you're playing the Dolphins, you're playing the Bills, and none of those teams were that great to the point where they were really that. Like the Jets got a hang of them, and I think they beat them once in the postseason.
I think Brady actually won 7.
Well, he won 7, but 6 were with the Patriots. But my point is that the Yankees never, and like since we've been watching, how many times do they get an AL like this? They don't. And that is, I believe, what has made it really tough for them. Because even years where they were clearly a team that should have won a World Series based on all the numbers, they were like your prototypical World Series team, they had the Astros in the way. It's no different than the West with the Golden State Warriors. People forget, when you have a team that's running roughshod of everyone else, it doesn't matter how good you were. When you have all these great quarterbacks that win all these games and they see Tom Brady and they lose because that team was so hard to beat, that's what happens. Like when you're like, oh, see, and this is why I have an issue with the whole ring argument. Because, people will bring up, oh, yeah, well, Jordan this, or, now Ohtani won a ring and whatever. Okay, Soto won a ring in his second year in the league. But here's the deal. During that time, the Nationals didn't have like a juggernaut they had to dethrone. If the Nationals were in an NL like the Yankees have had AL-wise, the Red Sox, the Astros, I don't think that they win that World Series. Now, do you take it away from them? No.
Nope.
But it is an important thing to understand why it is so hard to sustain success. And it's not a surprise to me if the Dodgers don't win it this year, that it's the year that all of a sudden everyone in that division, except for the Rockies, are just absolutely dunking on teams. And that's how I look at it, because I do think at some point or another, you have to look at the competition within your division, within your conference, and understand, when you have an easier conference, it's easier to win. So don't be surprised if this is the year the Yankees get it done, in the year of one of the worst AL, conferences that we've seen, leagues that we've seen. And that shouldn't take anything away from the Yankees, but it does explain. You talk about the margin for error rule. Well, it makes things a little bit easier when you're going up against a weaker conference than years past.
Sure. And this is my final question, and then I think we can move on to Profit X and just make some picks for tomorrow in the rubber match. But my final question is, if we win the pennant this year, right, if we go to the World Series, I mean, most organizations would be thrilled with that. Back-to-back pennants. And I haven't even tried to ask you what your expectation should be when you get there. But if the Yankees lost the World Series, let's just say in 2025, would our base be satisfied? Would they be happy?
Well, you'd be disappointed like we were last year, but I think it's a good sign that they're not just coming close and missing. They have now, in my opinion, how I look at that, they've now put together back-to-back seasons getting to the World Series. And that, yes, you could say time is running out. You could say time is running out with Judge. You could say time is running out with Cole. But I would look at it, Gary, differently, because I would say they hadn't been this close since 2009. And now they've done it back-to-back years. So I think it gives them more of kind of status, if you will. And now I think doing it back-to-back years kind of gets the point across that you're almost there and you need something to get you over the top. And I think ultimately it would drive them nuts and put them in position where, okay, now we have to go out and get a Kyle Tucker. We have to go out and get that guy that's going to get us over the top. We tried doing it again. We did a nice job adjusting to no Soto, and we were a better team. But, and this is how I see it. Like, if they fall short again and they fix the defense, it's not a defensive thing. It's just we were missing one more piece thing. Then I think that could get them over the hump to try and actually go for it. And instead of just saying, yeah, we did that, but this, and this is why we didn't get him. I think that would be a no-nonsense approach. If they once again fell short on the steps, the final step, and they fell short of a championship yet again, I think I'd feel better about Kyle Tucker than I would if they won the World Series. That's what I would say.
Okay, I do wonder what their sense of urgency would be, because if we win a pennant, there's no way the Yankees are looking at this and saying, well, Brian Cashman's got to go. He didn't accomplish the ultimate goal, which is to win a World Series, and that's my ultimate goal. But remember, my expectations, when we lost Soto and then I saw Goldschmidt, obviously he's on the back end of his career. He's giving us great output. I didn't get to see any of that yet. Season hadn't started. Cody Bellinger, I love that pickup. Jason Dominguez still hadn't shown us anything. He had to prove himself, especially defensively, and what he could do. We didn't know what he could do right-handed. Obviously, you see how that's looking. But Max Fried, didn't expect this version of Max Fried. I didn't expect him to be in the running. Carlos Rodon to be in a running for Cy Young. Both guys. So, yeah, a lot's happened. But you make it to a World Series, you lose Juan Soto, it's going to look really good for Brian Cashman. Whether people want that or not, I'm just telling you, you lose a player who commanded almost $800 million, suites, stuff for his parents to be able to do whatever around the stadium, security to follow his family. All of this stuff happened so that they can acquire one player. Obviously he's a great player. You lose that player and then you get back to the World Series. Yeah, it's going to look positive on your GM, but I guess the question is, if that happens and you look that good as a GM, will you be as motivated to go out and land a Kyle Tucker who's probably going to cost you anywhere between $400 and $500 million? So, yeah, it's going to be a situation where I understood why we went and got Gerrit Cole. We were losing to Houston. It was a situation where we're going to not only acquire Gerrit Cole and what he does, but we're also taking him away from our rival in the Houston Astros. And then you make it to back-to-back pennants. Are the Yankees going to feel like we've got to prove ourselves to this fan base? I sure hope they have that mentality. I hope they do.
I hope so too. And I got to say, we didn't want to spend too much time on it because it is the Rockies and you're supposed to win. But, a season high 21 hits, 13 runs, 12 runs batted in, only one home run today. So they were winning it, doing the little things like
it's hard to do.
Having a catcher score from first. Austin Wells, I see you with that hustle. Love that. Peraza, really nice to drive him in. But, yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised because I thought this would kind of be one of those kind of grinded out games. I thought they'd win, But I felt like Fried would do his job, but Fried has like no run support. Like aside from earlier in the year where they blew up on Milwaukee, and then this game, he really doesn't get a lot of run support when he's on the mound for whatever reason. So it was nice to see this. I mean, you had one, two, three, four 3-hit games today. Like that's insane. Goldschmidt, Volpe, Bellinger, and LeMahieu. Man, I gotta tell you, LeMahieu, this is exactly why when his batting average was starting to dip a little bit, people are like, oh, it's the same LeMahieu. I kept saying, no. Look at the exit velo numbers. Look at his at-bats. Like, this is going to translate. I don't know how long this lasts, Gary, but I really like what I've seen out of LeMahieu so far, which makes them better.
Dave M is not a fan. He's not a fan of DJ LeMahieu. I don't blame you. It's his own personal opinion.
Yeah, no, of course.
But yeah, the contact's been good.
He looks good. Volpe had some good at bats today. I mean, he had one where I don't know what he was swinging at. Maybe the stars in the sky. But but no, I just today they needed something like that, and I think this really got the ball rolling on our discussion to kind of compare them against 2024 in a 50-game sample size, because I watched today and felt like this was a different team. Like. You watch, and this is what actually is so funny to me. We've talked about it. This team hits more home runs than they did last year, right? A lot more, 16 more. But doesn't it feel like last year they won games only because of home runs, and this year they found other ways to win? That's what I see.
Is more like every year the last 9 years. Well, I felt like I was waiting for Gary Sanchez and Luke Voit to hit some opposite field bomb where we win 8-0, or we've scored 1 run or 0 through 5 innings. Yep. And I pretty much know we're going to lose that game. That's how we've played for a decade. And we had enough talent, especially at the back end of the bullpen. You go Britton, you go Betances, you go Chapman, Robertson. You're going to go out there and win a ton of games. We had the depth. But when it really matters, where pretty much every game in October is 3-2, 4-1, and you're going to have to scrape your way back into a game, the Yankees weren't built to accommodate for that. We just weren't built for that. I felt those Yankees teams the past decade, absent of last year, were essentially built to win in the macro. Over 162 games, they're going to beat up on the 3-5 starters because we're going to hit a lot of homers, which is still a good thing. But when we face the ace or a 2 of a team, we're going to look silly. We're going to strike out 15 times. We're going to walk once. We can't steal a base when we need it. This year's team, even more than last year's team, I feel like it's our first baseman can steal bases. What are we doing here? Yeah. Our team is more athletic. They're more savvy. They're smarter. So we're going to notice mistakes. We watch and cover. We do a podcast after every game. We're going to notice all the mistakes. But how many times have we talked about errors with this year's team? Not very many. There haven't been many. I think we made 5 errors in the opening weekend of the series, and we talked about it. But Jake, there haven't been very many games where this Yankees team pretty much just were out-coached, out-managed, made a mental mistake that cost them a game. This Yankees team just seems to be a little bit smarter. So, yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, I want to see them just go take care of business early and often tomorrow in this rubber match. Who do we have starting tomorrow? Let's do some Profit X picks.
Yeah, tomorrow is Will Warren. So I'm feeling a little bit better about tomorrow than I, normally would, I guess. It's a rubber match, and this is the Rockies' essential, World Series, I guess. So yeah, you got Will Warren on the mound, 4.05 ERA, 3-2 with a 1.29 WHIP, and you got Senzatella, who is 1-8. Antonio Senzatella, 1-8 with a 6.34 ERA and a 1.97 WHIP. Oh boy. Yeah. Well, so that is that. Well, I'm going over on Will Warren strikeouts because this Rockies team strikes out against anybody. I didn't think Clark Schmidt had great stuff the other night. Still had 8 punches. So, yeah, I'm going to go. I see Jake throwing up.
I told you.
Dave, you called it.
Dave spawned out of the woodworks. He hears DJ LeMahieu's name, and he just puts his head up from the sand
Cheeks?
right away. Where is Cheeks?
I'm waiting for a wild Cheeks has appeared.
Yeah, Cheeks is slacking. So you're obviously not concerned with Will Warren's sweeper. So his sweeper, for those of you who have taken a couple weeks off and haven't been watching what Will Warren's doing, the sweeper is his best pitch. It's clear as day. It moves a ton. It's better than the average sweeper in the game, and you know what the stuff looks like across the sport. Guys are throwing harder, pitches are moving more, players are just getting smarter. But Will Warren's sweeper is Michael King-esque. It sounds crazy to say it, and yes, Michael King is a much better pitcher, he's more polished, location, all that. But this sweeper, I'm curious to see if this translates into Colorado. You saw Max Fried, his breaking stuff translated just fine. So I'm leaving out hope that it does. I agree with you. I'm taking the over on those Ks.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the over. All right, I think it's going to be like 7.5, Gary. I do. I don't know that's a lot, but I think he's going to get at least 8.
Do you think he's going double digits? I do.
Yes. I do, and he's just got great stuff. And today, I mean, he just ruined any argument, discussion that you could make about the Rockies. Just, oh yeah, their pitchers, they, there's no you can't have any breaking pitches in Colorado. You saw Max Fried's pitches breaking, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, Warren is going to get at least 8 tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes over the double-digit trajectory. Aaron Judge is homered in 2 games now. I'm not going to necessarily, it's just not profitable, but I think he homers again tomorrow. Man, Bellinger coming through for us on the total bases. We didn't do much. Fried came through, and Bellinger came through.
Hold on, who's pitching for the Rockies tomorrow again? I know you told me his numbers.
Antonio Senzatella.
Is this a righty or a lefty?
He is a righty. So
okay. I would have never known. He could have thrown with his foot for all I knew. This guy, no idea who he is, man. With all due respect to his parents.
Yeah.
But the Yankees' expectation should be to come up and just beat the brakes off of this team. And also, when people mention the innings, because in order to get these Ks and hit the over, you need innings. It's not just stuff. It's not just location and break and all that stuff, all the fancy stuff. No, you got to stay in the game. To go get over 7.5 Ks, you got to be in the game by the 6th inning. Well, you know what would help that? If the Yankees score. They didn't in game 1. They showed up and showed out in game 2. That helps Will Warren stay in the game 3. You want him to be in the game in the 6th and the 7th, where you can just take him out out of pity? Yeah. Sunset. Oh,
you ever play Fallout New Vegas?
No, you asked me to. I've never played it.
Oh, dude, it's a great game. Yeah, the big thing that they have is Sunset Sarsaparilla. It's a drink that they have. And
okay.
Alex was making a joke about Senzatella's name. First thing he thought of was Sunset Sarsaparilla.
Nothing will ever be funnier than that Photoshop that Alex did yesterday of the Five Guys bag on my head. I thought it was real. Alex, I'm being dead serious.
He did. He totally did.
Alex Photoshopped a picture, and this is from last year, where I put a bag on my head because we got swept by, I don't even remember who, but
I do. The White Sox.
White Sox.
They didn't get swept. They lost 12-1.
Yeah, and I put a bag on my head. Not only that, I had the bag on my head for the entirety of the show. This is a true story. You can go back and watch it.
It's so true. Yeah, we should probably mark the one episode with the bag on the head, like literally parentheses. Gary has bag on head.
Yeah, the show is usually this crazy. So, yeah, anyways, guys, thank you for being here. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. And also, I always forget to remind people, if you want to be reminded that we're live, definitely hit the bell. YouTube doesn't do, I shouldn't say they do a bad job because I don't want them to get mad at me, but they don't do as good of a job as what should probably be done by telling people that a channel that they've specifically subscribed to know has created a show or a live. They don't do that at all. So hit that bell. I assume it's going to give you a notification. I can't be sure. I don't work there at YouTube, but yeah, I'm just trying to help.
Yeah, 2 things I want to add. Total bases is going to go to Ben Rice. He did not play today. He did not get in on the hit party. He is going to probably mash a home run, but I'm just going to be on the safe side and go with total bases since we love that one.
Okay.
And the second thing I'm going to say is in regards to what you're saying. As far as the bell icon, I figured out why it's not working for people.
An email? Dave, Nope. I don't even look at my emails.
Yeah, no. You can get push notifications on your app. Here's the deal, okay? iOS users have to go into their settings. This is the issue. Ready for this, Gary? They have to go into their settings, and I'll walk it over right now. So, settings, and then you have to go to notifications, and then you have to scroll down to the YouTube app, and you have to put allow notifications. This apparently is automatically off for a lot of people. That's what I found out. So if you have the bell icon on and you're still not getting our notifications, that is why. How dumb is that, Gary? It's so stupid.
So I clicked a button specifically for you to do something, and it doesn't work. Why? Because I have to go do something else to make that button work, essentially. So
user interface in a nutshell in 2025.
I hate technology. And for those of you who don't know, I probably haven't talked about it on the show. I don't like tech. I just don't. I want to click one button and I want it to work. I subscribe to this channel. I very clearly have indicated, just like Twitter, Instagram, or whatever, I'm following my family members. I'm following my friends. And I get on Instagram, and who do I see? Random people I've never seen before.
Yeah, you know how everything is all about the A word, aka algorithm. So that ultimately that's what it is. But that's going to do it. So we'll be back tomorrow. What time do they play tomorrow, Gary?
No idea.
Is it 3?
I was hoping it was another breakfast game like they played in game 1.
3:10. Yeah, it's like 3. It's 3:10. So yeah.
Okay.
We'll keep you posted on when we'll be going live after that. But that's going to do it. So we appreciate you guys. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Tell a friend if they like the Yankees and they want a good show to watch after every single game, win or lose. And be sure to like and comment. And what comment are we dropping today?
Whatever you want.
Let's do. All right. In honor of Alex, we'll do Sunset Sarsaparilla. Drop in the comments.
Can't even spell that, but like the video.